Welcome. I am Dr. Patrice Berry, licensed clinical psychologist, and here I share legal and entertainment news from a psychological perspective. This morning, I woke up and saw the news about the bridge collapse in Baltimore, Maryland. I am a therapist right here in Virginia, and I wanted to talk about how to manage anxiety after news like this. And so I really want to caution people. So I am not going to play what happened. They are still searching for some of the construction workers. There were people repairing potholes on the bridge that they are still searching for, and so because of that, I do not want to play the coverage. I did just want to talk about being mindful with the news and the impact that it can have on you. And normally I drive across bridges on a pretty regular basis, and situations like this can a friend of mine on Facebook said unlock a new fear. A friend of mine said that she already struggled with driving over bridges and that this kind of opened something up. The phenomenal thing Now, when I say phenomenal, in the midst of a tragedy, sometimes you have to see what worked well, and it's my understanding that they were able to receive a mayday call, and they were able to stop traffic, and they did their best to try to clear the bridge as quickly as they could. They were not able to get it completely clear, to get everyone off so that there was no impact. It's my understanding that the ship lost power, and there's a lot of speculation about what could. My goal is to focus more on the mental health side, just how as we're thinking about the people that have been impacted, thinking about the people that drive across this every day. And I think the city is doing a good job focusing on resilience, focusing on making a memory after a situation like this. And that's what most cities do after a major tragedy, after a major loss like this. And NISA, I did see that they recovered. One person survived. One of the workers did survive. I did hear that they did recover one individual. Um, and to the family, to the people that are still waiting, that's where they might stay away from the news because it can really be re-triggering to as people are waiting to hear what happened. So, my recommendation, my tip is if you can feel it increasing your anxiety, increasing your stress. And anxiety is normal. So anxiety is going to come up in situations like this. Does it then drive the bus? And my goal is for me to stay in control of the anxiety by talking back to it. So, this comes from the work of Lynn Lyons. She has a book, Anxiety Audit, and then also Anxious Kids, Anxious Parents, How to Raise Courageous Children. And through that work and really implementing those skills and teaching them to my clients, learning how to talk back to anxiety when it shows up. So, anxiety wants certainty and control, but we live in a world that is incredibly uncertain and things are unpredictable and things do happen sometimes. So how do we still approach? Because anxiety wants you to avoid. So anxiety says, avoid bridges. But a way to not let anxiety drive, to not let anxiety rule is by being in the driver's seat. Sometimes people need to do systematic desensitization. That's a therapeutic technique where you slowly and gradually work towards the thing that is causing a lot of anxiety. I use those types of tools with people that struggle with phobias of needles or different phobias like that. But just being able to support people that are impacted by situations like this. Yes, Lisa, I like that. I look at anxiety as a bully. Sometimes I literally gotta cuss anxiety out. So Lynn Lyons recommends naming it. So giving it a name, giving it, if you wanna give it a gender. So mine is female. She doesn't have a specific name, but I do have to talk back to her because sometimes she gets a little unruly, and I do have to let her know who's in control. And so because sometimes anxiety can become such a part of you that you can't tell your thoughts from anxious thoughts. So anxious thoughts are gonna be the what if this and what if that and what if this. And for me personally, sometimes I have to take a breath because sometimes it's helpful. So I have a trip coming up. So I just got back from a trip and I have a trip coming up. And for the next trip, I'm already going to start getting things together for that trip. And I've traveled in the past with a big charger, like something that can charge multiple devices all at once. Well, one of my what ifs is like, hey, let me get something that's a little bit more compact because I'm trying to just travel with one suitcase and not travel with like a whole bunch of stuff. I like stuff and I can overpack sometimes. And so sometimes anxiety can be helpful, but sometimes it can be a bully. And knowing the difference can really, really be helpful. I like that. And this has said, I picture my anxiety as opposite of you. I like that a lot. Welcome, Ashley, Allison, Karen, Aurora. Thank you to everyone that is watching. Also, Sandy, if you're still here. Today, I want to talk about a few different things. So now we are going to hop over to a case that can be a little triggering. So here is my warning. This case is of an Ohio mother that abandoned her child for 10 days while she went to Puerto Rico. And then I think also she went to another city as well. And it came up during the sentencing that she had done this once before, that she was likely unaware that her neighbor had a Ring camera and that the Ring camera had caught her leaving the house for about 2 days and coming back, but then leaving again for 10 days. And they're going to try to bring up mental health. They're going to try to talk about some diagnoses. And I really like the judge's response at the end with the sentencing. And so I'm going to play a little bit of what the prosecution said. I'm going to play a little bit of what um, a little bit of I think the parents also spoke. So the name of the individual, it is Chris. Okay, I'm bad. Y'all know I'm bad with names. It is Callan. Candelero. So it's Crystal Candelario. I'm bad with names. But so she is the individual that was charged with this. I do believe that she pled guilty and this is her sentencing. But there was a ton of evidence in this case where they had her leaving on the Ring camera and then not returning for 10 days. I am not going to play the audio of the child crying because there is audio of um of a child in distress. I am not going to play that part. So let's start here.
I am, Your Honor. Thank you.
This is the prosecutor that is talking right now.
Good morning, Your Honor. We're here on a very tragic case. The state of Ohio has prepared a PowerPoint presentation because the state wants you, when you impose your sentence, that you look at Crystal Candelaria's actions. And anybody that knows me or has been in this courthouse would know that I talk about actions in all my cases, because as adults, we are responsible for our actions and there are consequences to our actions. So let us begin on this fateful day that Jaylene Candelaria lost her life. If in fact we would have gone to trial, the evidence was going to show that Crystal Candelaria left the state of Ohio on 6/4/2023. She leaves because there is a receipt that's found in her car that she is in Taylor, Michigan. Unbeknownst to Ms. Candelario, her neighbors had Ring doorbell, and the Cleveland Police Department Homicide Unit has gone through 648 hours and videos of the Ring doorbell, which you're going to see in this presentation. With regards to Ms. Candelaria, she returns to Cuyahoga County on 6/6 at 7:41 a.m. So at this particular point, we have reason to believe that this child was left alone for 2 days now, and she returns on 6/6/2023. Additional cameras show her again at 11:51 on 6/6, and on 5/24 of 6/6, she is taking a suitcase and now leaving Cuyahoga County. We have a map and a flock camera which shows her on, I believe it's Lafayette and Charter, northbound, at 6/6 at 20.05, which is 8:05.
The saddest part about this case for me is that if she had let someone know that she was going on vacation and she needed someone to watch her daughter, I believe somebody would have watched her. And this is just my thought. I'm giving my own personal opinions here. I also think that if she had let someone known, "No, I am overwhelmed. I am really stressed." Her daughter, I believe, was 16 months old, so about almost a year and a half at that time. Maybe if she was struggling with postpartum depression or if she was struggling with her mental health or something, if she had reached out for help and support, I think people would have been there. And the idea of leaving a 16-month-old home alone at all for any period of time, but for 10 days. So that's why I definitely wanted to cover this case because the defense is going to try to make a mental health claim and try to talk about that she had stopped her medication 10 days. She left her 16-month-old daughter for 10 days. And the judge is going to talk about the fact that she has an older child. And I don't know. So let me know in the chat if anybody figured out how old her older child was, or because to me it wasn't clear what happened with the older one. And I think Crystal, she wanted to be able to one day see the older child again. And I don't know for sure, but I wonder if their family court system, if they will terminate her parental rights after this. Oh, and she's been sentenced. So okay, spoiler alert, she's been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And so but they will likely still terminate parental rights so that that child, if they haven't already been adopted, if they are over, because I'm guessing the child is under the age of 18. I do not know any details for that other child. Yes, exactly, Lisa. If she had left a 16-year-old at home for 10 days, that still would have been neglectful. Agreed. Agreed. um I thought it was important to definitely talk about this. And let me know if y'all have questions. And also, I want to say thank you to Karen for that super chat. Anxiety takes over one's mind and rational thinking, but the thing that we can do to calm ourselves, to bring ourselves back. So the opposite of anxiety is peace. And so I have, in the midst of my anxiety, I have to find my center. I have to find, and I can feel two things at the same time. I can be anxious and still do the thing anyway, and which is hard, but that often helps reduce that anxiety, especially if I have success doing the thing. Let's keep listening to this part. Yes, let's keep going.
5 p.m., and that's a flock camera. Through the search warrants, we were able to retrieve her Spirit airline tickets that showed her departure and her return from Puerto Rico. She was gone from 6/8 to 6/11. And it's interesting, Your Honor, because in the
And I think the prosecution did this on purpose. They are showing pictures. She is out having a blast while her daughter is literally like perishing. And she seemed to have no care in the world about any of it. And that is harsh to me. And there is an interpreter for her. And the person is also going to interpret for the family as well. Hey, S.L. Conley. Hello, witness. Thank y'all all for joining.
defense memorandum, it says that her abrupt stopping of medications played a significant role in her ability to function as a parent and make sound decisions.
10
So
days.
when we look at, these are items from her phone, her actions indicate to us that she is in Puerto Rico having a good time with friends, and that there is not a care in the world about the 16-month-old that was left alone in the pack and play. These pictures show somebody who is showing some discretion and judgment because she's having a good time. Meanwhile, this child is in a pack and play.
And the prosecution is also going to talk about the fact that once Crystal does return, she ends up she changes the child's clothes. So the child is likely, because it's been 10 days in the same clothes. And when she finally returns home, the child is unresponsive. And she changes the child's clothes, calls 911, and there is a very frantic call to 911. And she is going to be interviewed by the police, and she is not going to tell the truth about what happened. So I'm going to skip forward to the police interview. And this was the prosecution's going to point out that there is, because they pronounced her child deceased at the home, and she is here talking, and her child is covered by a white blanket right there. All right, let's keep going with this part.
Of the 911, and this is the first interview that she has with a detective from homicide. Again, pay attention to her actions and how she speaks to this detective. But in the last week,
And I want to answer Karen's. So a pack and play is like a playpen. Do y'all have, because I know you're in the UK, so it's a playpen. Or so Karen, let me know in the chat if I wonder what they call that in so it's a playpen. It's a small, like it's not, it was not safe, I don't think, for her to leave the child for hours unattended. And like even for a few days. Like, you just don't leave a 16-month at home alone. Like, you just don't do that. Like, you have to make sure that you're within earshot of young children. So that's a pack and play. All right. All right. So let's come back here and share this tab. All right. I'm going to take. All right. Let's keep going.
she get a vomiting too. Remember right now when you mentioned the vomiting. She get a vomiting the last week, Monday and Tuesday, two times. But I was trying controlling because I.
So right now she's going to try to say that her child has been sick and hasn't been eating, but I think she didn't realize they were going to be able to get the records, that she was not home, that she just returned home from Puerto Rico. I don't think she thought they were going to look into her.
No, I give to her Tylenol or something, for controlling the vomiting.
Okay. Come on, sir. This is my
This
supervisor, Sergeant Gomez.
maybe I need to, I give to her when she gets ready or vomit. Hola, ¿qué tal?
Yo soy la secretaria de la Federación que
Well, just to take note, Your Honor, she's
So
sitting in
yeah,
the chair.
that's the situation, and after that,
So the prosecution is commenting that her daughter is that the sheet is covering her daughter. And so she doesn't seem to me, she doesn't she's not exhibiting outward signs of distress to me to have just lost her daughter. Now on the phone call is very frantic. Um
she was refusing to do the food, and she was with no appetite. I say, oh my God.
This is after last Monday and Tuesday when she was throwing up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you talking about Monday and Tuesday, like 4 days ago?
Yeah,
Okay.
last week, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because we almost done this week, so I talk about,
Because what, this week?
This week, I talk about because we almost done,
Oh, we're almost done with this.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that was just Monday and Tuesday of this week. She was throwing up.
Yes.
And then how was she Wednesday and Thursday?
She was with no food, just with a meal, because she was refusing. Maybe it's because she get a vomiting 2 days, before.
Yeah.
So that's why
What?
that was scary, because you say, oh my God, maybe go to the hospital because she doesn't eat anything, and she was lose tiny, her weight. I lose, her weight. But right now, this morning when I wake up, she was asleep. She sleep every day 12 hours.
Okay.
She sleep like at 9 p.m. through 9 or 10 a.m.
Okay.
12 hours. So in this morning I was sleeping too. I never wake up. She was
What happened? What was going on last night?
Last night she was crying a lot, and I see one moment when I was take a shower, and she was screaming like, I don't know, probably she get a pain.
Okay.
Maybe.
About what time was that last night?
Maybe at 7 or 8 p.m.
Okay.
And so S.L. Conley had a really good comment. So some kiddos do sleep really well. I know some people that have given kids medication. So that have given kids that don't need like Benadryl or like that don't need certain medication. I've known people to give kids that didn't, and that is medical harm to give a kid that does not need medication solely for the purposes of sleep. And yes. All right. So I don't, but this is not true. This is not true at all. I do think in court, I do think she was provided an interpreter just to make sure that she fully understood all of her rights and everything. I think her primary language is Spanish. I think her first language is Spanish. They did the same thing with Michelle Traconis, that she was provided, I believe she was provided an interpreter for her language as well. That's just something that the court systems do. Yeah.
Oh, she was screaming like, probably for pain or something like that. In this morning when I wake up, I took her in the morning for JD, wake up, da, 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 da. And she wake up, and when I see her, I see she looks like a really, really dry, like a, ¿cómo se dice cuando una persona se chupa? O sea, kind of like,
Oh, like her face was sunken in?
So, yo me asusté y dije.
She's speaking in Spanish now to the interpreter.
And then she is then brought into homicide. She's arrested and brought into homicide and has another conversation with Sergeant Gomez and Detective Powell And she continues now to perpetuate her lies.
What time did you go to Detroit, Michigan on Monday? Monday morning? Okay. On Monday morning, what condition was Jaylene in? She was okay? Was she awake, asleep?
No, she wasn't sleeping.
She was sleeping when you left? Sorry. You went there on Monday at what time?
Maybe 7 a.m.
In the morning?
Yeah.
Okay. 7, 8,
Like every evening, I don't know what something.
early in the morning?
Yeah.
But when you left out, Jaylene was sleeping in her playpen?
And so, witness, I'm not going to play the medical examiner. So I have the full link to this video down in the description, and um, the details. So this child was so emaciated by that 10th day. She had also resorted to eating whatever she could, including feces. And so, but like so the mother did not leave, like there was no food or water for her. It's my understanding that was left. So for 10 days, she did not have food or water. And they do believe that that 10th day is likely when, because the Emmy is going to talk about that when they arrived, that rigor mortis, so like that she had this, like she had passed recently. It hadn't been days or anything. And if mom had come home on day 9, she might have survived, but I think mom might have done this again. Does that so I just can't. I'm just heartbroken for this entire situation, because there are people that would have loved this little girl, that would have watched her, cuz let's say mom just needed to take a trip. So y'all know I just returned from a conference, and my son, I am his like favorite person, which I adore right now, cuz when he's like 12 or 13, he's probably not going to like, he's going to want his friends, he's not going to want me as much. And so me being away is hard for him, but he was with his dad. Like dad was home, dad took care of everything. He was great, but I needed a break for Mother's Day. My ideal Mother's Day is for me to get away and to not be a mom for like like that, but for somebody else to watch my kid. So like for him to be with dad, and for me to get away and to not be a mom. And so I get moms needing a break, but you have to make sure that your kids are taken care of. Like you can't. So to me, her decision was completely selfish, doesn't go far enough. Her decision was abusive. Like it was so harmful. I believe in self-care. I believe like you need to take time for you. You need to do a girls trip, but you have to make sure that the kids are okay. And I don't know why she didn't reach out to someone, and that's where this could have been prevented. This really, really could have been prevented. And I'm going to keep going.
Okay. So you go to Michigan. What time did you arrive in Michigan?
You say through here. Dos horas con 30 minutos. 2 hours and 30 minutes.
2 hours, okay. So you get there, when you arrive there, who you meet up with?
Yo llegué a un hotel, pero yo trabajaba de Puerto Rico y me puse a trabajar directamente en Uber.
She stayed at a hotel and she right away started working at Uber.
Pero ya después fui a visitar a otras amistades alrededor.
She went to visit some friends.
Y
Who did you go visit?
amistades.
Who? Give me a name.
David, that's the name.
David?
Late. So you arrive in 2 hours later, you get a hotel. Where did you stay?
No me recuerdo bien la ciudad que estaba ni el hotel.
Okay.
Okay, come on. Sabíamos to determine she
Okay, so you can't really hear this part too well, but it's my understanding that she continues to lie. Dr. Elizabeth Mooney is the medical examiner that talks about having to do the autopsy and just all that her findings and how horrific that was. Um, they also had impact statements by law enforcement just because when law enforcement responds to crimes like this, it really does just have an impact. And they wanted to make sure that somebody could speak for Jaylene, for for that little girl. And so that's what the law enforcement did. And the state closes, and then okay, we're going to listen to it. We're going to listen to the defense attorney. Okay, he's just going to do his job, and we're going to listen to what he has to say. He's going to admit that that what she did was selfish, but he's going to try to blame mental health, and he's just doing his job, and the judge saw through it. So all right.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, everything that I'm about to get into here today, and my client agrees with me, is no justification for her actions. And what the prosecution said, actions matter, and these actions are narcissistic, selfish, abhorrent, absolutely worst parenting imaginable. She pled to aggravated murder. She pled to child endangering.
Sorry. I'm trying to make that top part go away. Mm. I'm trying to make it play. There we go. All right, let's try.
So everything we're about to tell you is mitigation. Just to kind of give you an understanding of who this person is. So she came over from Ecuador 2016 with her grandmother.
Ecuador.
She was here for a few years. Her parents came over and they lived together. She had her first daughter, Amaya, while she was married. She subsequently got divorced, was a single mom raising Amaya. Met the father of Jaylene in Ecuador. They had a relationship that unfortunately turned violent. While she was pregnant with Jaylene, he became physical with her. She came back to Cleveland and never to see him again, gave birth to Jaylene. He was never involved in Jaylene's life. She had two.
Okay, so I did not hear this part before, and a part of me wonders if she really never and it breaks my heart. So this is trigger warning for like child abandonment. Like I wonder if she didn't want Jaylene, and I wish that she had given her to someone else. And so this is Jaylene's side. So I'm sorry, this is Crystal's side. So I don't know if any of this is true. From her report, she's alleging that she was in an unsafe relationship, or like I don't know, like there was a that Jaylene's father was not safe with her. I have seen people take out their feelings on the for the partner on their child. To me, she didn't show any love and care for her daughter, to me. So this is just me because I don't know what person could leave their 16-month-old home alone for one day for like, I've heard of, like, somebody having to go into work, and this isn't okay either, like, you need to find appropriate childcare, check out resources and things that are available, which can be difficult to get, like, no lie, childcare is expensive. I do think that there is family that would have supported her. I think there are friends. I think she could have brought Jaylene with her. So her child is under the age of 2. Jaylene could have flown for free. She could have brought her with her on this trip. And I think the prosecution might have made that point as well. It wouldn't have been more expensive. Ugh, there's a part of me that wonders if she wanted her. And that's where I do think that people she could have dropped her off at the hospital with, I think it's no questions asked. She could have possibly dropped her off at a fire station. If Ohio, let me know if you're in Ohio and if you know if they have this law, because there's some laws, kids under the age of 2, that you can drop them, like it's like a safe harbor law where you can drop them off for no questions asked, no neglect charges or anything like that if they're 2 years old or under. Let me Google that and see if Ohio safe harbor kids under 2, if there's some type of law like that. So Ohio's Safe Havens program is up to 30 days old. Oy. Okay, so it's only 30 days. If she wanted to relinquish rights, she could have, but I don't know that she wanted to. Oh, like, it seems very selfish. Okay, good. Okay, so you heard law and crime say that they have safe harbor laws. Okay, good. Um, I wish that she had, found appropriate childcare, that she had shown some type of care for her child. Those are my thoughts.
Daughters on with the help of her parents. She was struggling emotionally, physically, trying to work, support these children. Fast forward to 2023, it's overwhelming. She even tried to harm herself, took 20 Motrin, ended up in Metro.
Sorry I didn't give that trigger warning. Sorry. I try to give those.
In early February of 23, after spending just a few days in her room alone, her mother went to check on her, asked her what was going on. Her whole side of her body was numb, didn't know what was going on. They took her to Hillcrest Hospital. She was admitted there, and they were doing some evaluations for her migraine. She was complaining about headaches and weakness, facial drooping, thought it was possible stroke. They put her on IV Depakote, which is a anti-seizure, also used to treat manic disorder. And at the end of the day, after evaluations, she was clean, nothing wrong with her brain. They gave her oral Depakote and Effexor, 2 antidepressants, and sent her home.
So I don't know that he knows what the medication. So Depakote is normally a mood stabilizer prescribed for bipolar disorder. I wouldn't describe Depakote as a antidepressant. That's not how I would describe it. I would describe Depakote as a mood stabilizer. And I work with a lot of parents, not a lot, but I work with parents and people that have bipolar disorder that would never ever do what she did. To me, what she did goes beyond a mental health diagnosis. And it could be about that like unresolved trauma, but she should have addressed that with someone. Sometimes this can also be stigma within um because I don't know if she had an interpreter with her when she was at the hospital. If somebody clearly, and this isn't to excuse anything, I'm trying to understand. I don't know if somebody explained her mental health condition to her. And I wish she had been connected with a Spanish speaking therapist that could have just given her some psychoeducation, monitored her for any any risk factors, any impulsivity, just, and she would have to be honest about those things. That's the hard thing with a situation like this, is it sounds like she was hiding this from people, what she did, and the fact that she was away and nobody was able to keep Jaylene safe.
She was not very clear on what those were, but she was taking them supposedly as directed. And then she returned to Hillcrest Hospital again in March. And there was a note from the doctor saying that she should have had plenty of Effexor, but she's saying that she's out and she needs more. And she's coming back with the same problems. So they had her evaluated again. And they were saying that her anxiety and her stress was the trigger for these physical manifestations to what was happening to her for with loss of sensation inside of her body, the numbness. And they prescribed her more Depakote, more Effexor, and also Atarax to help her sleep because she wasn't sleeping. And this is in March of 2023. And, take the medications as prescribed. And then medications ran out. She wasn't feeling any better. They weren't working. She stopped. Not
It
supposed
was
to do
her
that with these
choice.
drugs, Your Honor. These are very serious mental health drugs. And you need to be tapered off of these medications or there could be some side effects.
Not this.
Not only the side effects, but the actual underlying conditions that she may have had or been suffering from are also going unmedicated at this time. And then we get into her trip. And I'm not going through that again. That's the worst thing I've ever heard. And I commend the prosecution and detectives for their work. It was unimaginable, terrible, and I feel for all you guys having to do with that too, and her family as well. It's when the prosecution showed pictures of her on her trip. Pictures can be deceiving. Personally, for having myself suffer from depression and anxiety, you can't tell what a person is going through from a picture. What
She
they're
seemed
dealing with on
happy
the
and free
inside.
to me. I don't know.
And I'm thankful for the support that I had from my family, my friends, my doctors. She didn't have any of that. She was hiding it from herself, from her parents. Nobody knew what she was suffering from. Her doctors even thought it was migraines and possible strokes. And to be honest with you, when I first met her, Your Honor, after this happened in June, I met a person that was devoid of emotion. Just after hearing what had happened on the news, and then I get the call, she wants to meet with me, and I go talk to her. It was not what I expected. She had no emotion. She couldn't explain anything. I had no idea who I was talking to. But I'll tell you right now, this is not the same person. This person now is compliant on her medications. She's been taking them through the prison throughout the whole time that she's been in here. Again, there's no justification for her actions when she was out there, what she was doing. She could have called somebody, she could have done this, yes, but when you're in that state, when you're off medication, mismanaging your thoughts, you're not thinking clearly, her body she had to get out.
Okay. So that's about all that I can take with that. He was almost done. And then Crystal's parents are going to speak for her and ask for the judge to not I don't know that mercy is the word, but they're gonna ask for a lighter sentence. So the mother and father both gave a statement. Okay, then she's gonna speak. So let's hear what she has to say, and then we're gonna hear the judge. Let me know if you all have questions about any other cases. I think I did see a question come through, and I don't think I answered it yet. And welcome, Kelly D, to the Psych Nerds, to our membership. I'm continuing to grow that, and so I plan, if I ever do a pre-recorded video, I often give members that early. I love live videos, and so yes, Dr. Berry, in cases like this, is there usually a mental health eval done on the defendant? Is it mandatory or optional? And it depends on the state. Many states require a pre-sentencing report where a psychological is often done. It sounds like she is on medication and she's likely receiving some type of therapy and medication while she is in jail because she's probably been identified as somebody that is a high risk, especially with her history of possible self stuff because of what the lawyer said. Um the parent so that's why I'm just gonna skip the parent statement. The parents seem to excuse her behavior, and to me, they were not holding her accountable at all. They start with saying, that they wanna speak for Jaylene, but to me, they spoke more for Crystal than they did for their granddaughter. I think they had already lost their granddaughter, and they didn't wanna lose their daughter as well. I have some empathy for that and compassion, but I am glad that the judge saw through all of that. All right. Yes, and she has one older daughter, and my heart breaks for her. She lost her sister and now her mother to incarceration because consequences of her actions.
She was obviously struggling with something that she was unaware of. Doctors weren't aware of, family was unaware of. So that's, again,
I'm gonna fast forward.
hey, I don't know, but I was thinking, I don't know, I can't put myself back into that state of mind I was in. She hates herself for it, she thinks of her daughter, and I actually will let her speak now.
She's about to speak.
Ms. Candelaria, you want to stand up and address the court?
Your Honor, good morning.
To me, this sadness, what's coming up for her is having to face the reality of what she did, of having to face this is she will never see her daughter, and this is on her. To me, that's the emotion that's coming up. I don't know what's coming up from her. She's not my client. And watching this is just what I personally see. Also possibly crying for herself as well, trying to fight for her own life.
Sorry. Um, Hay mucho dolor que tengo con respecto a la pérdida de mi bebé Yailin.
There's so much pain that I have in regards to the loss of my baby, Aileen.
Estoy muy dolida por todo lo que pasó.
I'm extremely hurt about everything that happened.
No estoy tratando de justificar mis actos,
I am not trying to justify my actions,
pero nadie sabe cuánto yo estaba sufriendo
but nobody knew how much I was suffering
y por lo que estaba pasando.
and what I was going through.
Todos los días le pido perdón a Dios y a mi hija, Yailin.
Every day I ask forgiveness from God and from my daughter, Jaylene.
Soy una persona creyente de Dios
I'm a person who believes in God.
y reconozco hoy que todos y todas, muchas ocasiones, somos tentados por el enemigo.
And I recognize today that all of us are sometimes subject to
The devil,
the enemy.
animal, the enemy, evil.
Dios y mi hija me han perdonado.
God and my daughter have forgiven me.
She pulled a Lori Vallow. Did she pull a Lori Vallow? My daughter and God have forgiven me. Okay. You're in court today. What? Like that's just so I am a person of faith and it struggles. So my two things is when people try to use faith to justify bad behavior or they try to use mental health to justify bad behavior. And I just can't. I just I just can't. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, I'm gonna try to keep going.
Quisiera pedir perdón también a mi hija Amaya
I would also like to ask Amaya, my daughter Amaya, for forgiveness.
y a mis padres.
And I'd like to ask my parents for forgiveness.
No se imaginan cuánto yo era unida a mi hija Yailin y Amaya.
one can't imagine how close I was to my daughters, Jaylene and Amaya,
y cuánto nos amábamos todas.
and how much we all loved one another.
Extraño mucho a mis hijas.
I miss my daughters very much.
Hoy nada puede devolverme a Maya, a Yailin, perdón.
Now, I know that nothing can bring Jaylene back.
Y no pasa un día que no deje de pensar en ella.
And not a day goes by when I do not think of her.
Le pido a Dios que algún día pueda volverla a ver
I pray to God that one day I will see her again
y poder retornar junto con Amaya, que es nuestra única esperanza el día de hoy.
and I pray also that one day I can be reunited with Amaya, who is our only hope right now.
Thank you.
That was very much all about her to me. That was all about her. Ugh. I wonder if her lawyer gave her any but the defendant can make whatever statement they want to make. I wonder if her lawyer gave her any feedback on this, like, "Hey, this comes across a little it's not giving remorse. It's not giving it's giving you should feel sorry for me. I'm the victim, in my opinion. That's what I'm getting from this. I did not get grieving mother. I get like God's forgiven me. You should forgive me too. I should be able to get out. I don't know. Now we're gonna get to the judge. I like this judge. So, all right.
This purpose without imposing an unnecessary burden on state or local government resources. I always have to consider the need for incapacitation, deterrence, rehabilitation, and restitution. The sentence should be commensurate with and not demeaning to the seriousness of the offender's conduct, its impact on the victims, and consistent with sentences for similar crimes by similar offenders. Ms. Candelaria, I am not sentencing you today based on your race, your ethnicity, your gender, or your religion. Do you understand?
Yes.
I sat here, listened, and I'm looking in the back of this courtroom, and I think of Dr. Mooney's statements to me, Sergeant Detective Teresa Gomez, and Detective Paul, and these three experienced, very talented, hardworking individuals all called this one of the most horrific cases they've ever seen. I look in the back of this courtroom and I see law enforcement. I see individuals who have worked on this case who are here because it's also affected them and how horrific this crime is. It stunned people across this world because it defies one of the basic human responsibilities. The bond between a mother and a child is one of the most purest and most sacred bonds
Supposed to be.
between human beings.
Supposed to be.
It's a relationship built on love, trust, and unwavering protection. Yet, in a shocking and betrayal of this fundamental trust, you committed the ultimate act of betrayal, leaving your baby terrified, alone, unprotected, to suffer What I heard was the
Horrific.
most gruesome death imaginable. With no food, no water, no protection, and lying in her own feces. Ms. Candelaria, you know the responsibility of parenting. You have a child already. You raised another child. And I've witnessed here before me your parents who've showed you love and respect and education. And they came here to help you, to advocate for you, more than what you've done for your own child. The evidence that I've witnessed here before this court shows that this time you simply chose not to be here because you wanted to have fun.
Yep.
You decided you needed a vacation. And what followed was absolute depravity. You left your baby, Jalen, trapped in a pack and play without food and water for 10 days. This wasn't simply an oversight. You could have saved Jalen's life many times.
Just come home.
You could have found someone to watch her
Exactly.
while you were gone. You could have taken her with you. While you were in Detroit or Puerto Rico, you could have called someone in Cleveland and told them that Jalen needed help. Dr. Mooney indicated that rigor mortis was found when they found her, which means she didn't die that long before you came home. Think about that. Despite all of her suffering, that little baby persevered, waiting for someone to save her. And you could have done that with a simple phone call. Instead, I see photos of you on a beach while your child was eating her own feces in an attempt to survive. Photos mean something. And I'm well aware of mental health, but didn't look like you were too concerned about your child. As if that wasn't bad enough, you extended your stay in Detroit without regard to Jalen, alone, in pain, clawing her face in distress from the exhibits I just looked at,
Yeah, I skipped that part.
trapped in a tiny prison that you left her in. When you got home, you knew enough to start lying.
Um, I wonder if this, because somebody mentioned Shonda Vander Ark, and at minimum, there was significant neglect because anyone that can leave an infant at home alone, or I wonder if the older one was ever left home alone as well, or if it was only Jalen. If it was only Jalen, then that's what makes me more think that she never attached to care for Jalen the way she did with Amaya, and that possibly the relationship with the father. Now, there are people that have children out of um, painful, tragic situations that love those children, that work through their pain, that work through their trauma, and they do not pass on their pain to their child. This does kinda bring up generational, because to me, she passed her trauma and to me, and but, like, this is just, like, selfishness. Does that make sense? Like, I don't even know if I wanna call it generational trauma, but, like, let's say she did have her own traumas or anything, she could have reached out for help, and that's why I talk about these things. That's why I try to talk about resources And I can't see how you could love a child and do this, like a child and do this. I wouldn't leave my fish for 10 days. I wouldn't leave, like, I wouldn't leave, like, you can leave a cat because cats are pretty self-sufficient, but I don't know about 10 days because you would still have somebody come and check on them, I think. I don't have cats. I'm really allergic to cats. But, I had a friend that had a cat, and she was able to, like, leave food out, and she had somebody come and water her plants and check on her cats, while we went on a cruise. But, like, you just don't leave, thank you, you wouldn't leave houseplants for 10 days. You wouldn't leave anything, and so that's where it just it seems like to me, it seems like she didn't care, and that she in no way was considering the consequences of her actions, and to me, that's on her, and I don't blame that on mental health. I just don't.
You concocted story after story, trying to hide what you did.
Hmm.
You even put pants on her, but you couldn't hide the absolute horror and filth that she spent the last days of her life in. You still didn't get it. I hear this morning that you went out and managed to go out with someone that you were with, and he was too upset to eat, but you weren't.
Oh, that day. So it's my understanding before she was arrested, I think that it's my understanding before she was arrested and found out about her daughter, like, the person she was with was so upset that I guess he couldn't eat, and she was fine. Like, I don't I it's just it doesn't seem like she cared to me, and not in a psychosis, I don't know that my child exists kind of way, because people can have, like, psychotic breaks, but a person in psychosis wouldn't come home and clean the mess, you know? Like, they wouldn't do that. That's just not what happens, and you can still be held responsible even if you do have a mental health condition, you still can. Happens all the
And then
time.
I hear that you're in jail and you're telling people, I can't wait to get home. I look at remorse. I hear, except for the acceptance of responsibility, no remorse. As a court, I have to remember Jalen, where you did not. Just as you didn't let Jalen out of her confinement until she died, so too, you should spend the rest of your life in a cell without freedom. The only difference will be that prison will at least feed you and give you liquids that you deny her. Based on all these factors, and based on all the things I've looked at, and I'm marking this as State's Exhibit 1 for the court reporter. On count 1, aggravated murder, I'm going to sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. On count 5, I'm going to sentence you to 8 years to run concurrent to count 1. I'm going to tell you, Crystal, this is probably one of the most difficult, horrific cases to listen to hear, and to see. And I can tell you that I appreciate the fact that the state of Ohio presented this matter in a professional way, and the defense has acted in a professional way. You have a right to appeal my sentence. Do you have the
All right, so that's basically the end. Done with her. Wow. That judge, I'm glad that the judge saw through all of that and that the judge decided to um to give her life in prison without the possibility of parole. And um wow. Like, when I saw the case, because I saw the case break in the news, and I didn't wanna talk about it until everything had concluded. And a part of that is just for as we're talking about these cases, it can be hard to talk about it when you don't know what's gonna happen. And this one was just so raw, that was just so just painful. I wanted to see how everything concluded, unless they had, like, a mental health expert come in and talk and say something. And if you are doing an insanity defense, and she did not do a not guilty by reason of insanity. And I don't know if Ohio, because some states don't have that option. Um, but she just pled guilty, and she did not try to give a mental health defense, because when you give a mental health defense, then all of your medical records, all of your files, including any of your court or jail, so any of the jail providers that you've been seeing, all of that comes into court to talk about your mental state at the time of the offense. And then also, like, if your competency to stand trial comes into question, they'll also sometimes do evaluations then as well. And she did a short trip, I guess, for 2 days, where she left her for 2 days, and then before it sounds like on the 6th, she went to Detroit from the 6th to the 8th, and I wonder if she flew out of Detroit. So Detroit is a really big hub. I have family in Toledo, and when we fly into Ohio, we normally fly into Detroit, and then it's like a 2-hour drive or hour and a I don't know, like, it's a maybe I don't know, like, it's a drive to Ohio, so a lot of people, fly there. A lot of people are given the details in the chat about what all happened. Yes, so it came out during this, that before the 10 days, that she had left her for 2 days. And, that came up as they were reviewing the 600 hours of Ring camera. They saw Crystal leave, and that, Jalen was home for 2 days. And Crystal comes home, and then Crystal leaves with a suitcase and then does not come back for 10 days. That is my understanding of what the prosecution said. Y'all can always correct me in the chat if I said something wrong. Sometimes I get things wrong. Let's talk briefly about Diddy getting his compound, or not his compound, his houses being raided by Homeland Security, and he's currently being investigated for trafficking. And I wonder if this is coming out of the Cassie lawsuit, and then also out of the information from some of the other lawsuits that have been filed. Um, there's been a lot of talk about his sons being handcuffed, but that's just a part of a raid. So like they just if a house is raided, they have to subdue everyone in the house. And so sometimes people can be arrested. And I'm sorry, not arrested. They can be handcuffed to just make sure that everything is secure while they're going in and looking at everything. Um I did not have any, like, negative opinions of Diddy before the Cassie like, I was just kinda neutral, like, I it wasn't positive, it wasn't negative. Since everything came out with, his lawsuit filed by Cassie, and I hope that everyone that has filed truthful and, valid claims, I hope that they feel supported and like, if he does end up coming to some justice, and we don't know. So, it's my understanding that New York is the one that's leading this federal investigation, and normally they don't raid a house until they normally have some evidence piling up when they get to the point of a raid. And so for any person that's been a victim or survivor of SA, I do have resources. I did a video covering Cassie's lawsuit, and in that one, there are a bunch of resources posted there, and But there can be a bit of a bittersweet moment because when a person does get sentenced or if a person does end up going to jail, sometimes it makes the person feel a little better, but like it doesn't cause complete healing. What happened still happened and they still have a healing journey forward. And people don't always get the justice that they like maybe deserve or that you think they may deserve. And so I really like for people's healing to not be connected to whether or not the person is like comes to complete justice. I've worked with some people that they weren't in a place to press charges because when a victim presses charges, it opens their life in a way that would have been too just emotionally destabilizing. And I always support because I think it should be the victim's choice, the survivor's choice about whether or not they come forward with their story because their lives can kind of fall apart. People can start I don't know like there's a lot that can come out at a person when they do come forward. And so I did want to talk about that. Um, that lawsuit, I saw Natalie Lawyer Chick's coverage of his lawsuit, the male that filed the lawsuit. He seemed to be really like stressing the fact that he's heterosexual, that he's I don't know, that he's religious and that I don't know. So some of the things that came up in his claim um, the way it was written, I agreed with Natalie's assessment that it wasn't written the way that so to me, Cassie's was written in a very professional, lawyer-like way. His lawsuit, like, I think it included some of his bio of who he was, and I don't know, like, parts of it just rubbed me the wrong way, and so, um, thank you for being here. Hope ate fear. I love that name. I really, really love that name. Yes. And so I will anytime I cover a case, I always want us to be able to learn something from it, to talk about mental health in a way that can be helpful for us moving forward. The last thing I want to mention is with Corey Richens and her mom. So let me share my screen again because that's a bit um I was shocked. Like I was ready for a lot. I was not ready for that particular update. And these are allegations. I do not know if any of this is true. I did go back and watch an interview of Corey Richens' mom kind of defending her. And okay. Oh, so let's watch this. Okay, let me unmute.
In advance for a misdemeanor assault charge. That hearing, as you can see right there, virtual, about paying a fee and taking a thinking errors or grief course relating to the assault charge last summer. Now, our attorney says Richens was in grief counseling.
My bad. Nope. So this isn't the one, but it's the one about her mom. I found the wrong article. Ooh, like that was like there are allegations that Corey Richens' mom's like I guess it was girlfriend at the time that she died by overdose and there are questions about that and so, like, I'm definitely following the Corey Richens case. And as things come available, I did not talk about the walk the dog, like the letter that she wrote. But if y'all have questions about any specific cases that you all would like for me to talk about, please let me know. I was on Natalie Lawyer Chick's channel to talk about the Ruby Frankie Jody Hildebrandt uh, dump of like all of the case files and data and all of that from that case. I personally will not I don't plan like anybody I'm kind of done with them. Like I've talked about Jody and Ruby and Kevin about as much as I can. I love joining Natalie. So it was fun to talk about it with Natalie and for us to kind of listen to something and chat about it. It was hilarious. So I got a DM from her on Instagram right as I had finished putting my son to bed. I had just got in that day from my trip up to DC, and I like set up my lights. I hopped right on and was able to hang out with her. That video is on the community tab on my page because that's over on Natalie's channel. I love going back and forth with Natalie. She's one of my favorites to collaborate with. I would like to collaborate with Grizzly True Crime. We have talked about collaborating on a case in the future, and then there's some other like people that I would love to collab with. I did a collaboration a while back with Karen. We did a video on um, custody issues and legal things. She's a lawyer out in the UK, and so I'm glad that it was helpful. And thank y'all because y'all were in the chat. So I saw Natalie's video pop up, and honestly, like I was just like, because I knew it was gonna be bad and it was worse than what I thought it was gonna be. And so when I got the DM, I saw it as a sign. It was like, I need to go. Yes, I'm gonna go hop on. I'm I'm gonna I can do it. I can talk about it with Natalie. So sometimes I have to give myself a break from some of this coverage. So the lawyer has covered some things with that case. Uh Emily D. Baker has coverage. Grizzly True Crime, she has coverage. It gets to a point where my algorithm, I need a break sometimes. And so please take care of you. Drink your water, breathe, settle, find your peace, find your joy, do things that make you happy, especially as you consume some of this content. Hug the people you love, like just I hope that we're able to see the beauty and wonder in the world as we cover like the most horrific, painful parts too. So I am so glad that we were able to chat today. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm going to go feed my kiddo. Bye.